Thank you for watching this presentation. We're going to be demoing CX Studio integrations with Segment by Twilio. What we've got here is a multi-part integration that involves pushing events from sources, namely CX Studio, as well as from an integration hub / composer integration into a Segment account that's connected, as well as pulling that data back out, deriving insights from that, and creating personalized experiences for CX Studio storefront visitors. The first piece of this involves connecting your Elastic Path account as well as your CX Studio account with your Segment account using the sources which we have registered with Segment as part of this partnership. That's as simple as generating API keys and plugging these sources into your integration hub / integrations area of CX Studio. I'm going to skip the integration hub piece because this is a CX Studio demo. So here we can see I have a CX Studio account that is configured with Elastic Path as well as Stripe Algolia, and you can see here Segment. What I've configured for Segment is a source which allows us to push data into a Segment account, as well as a Unify configuration which allows us to pull insights back out, and those insights include things like predictive analytics and computed traits about users, about shoppers, that we can use to personalize experiences to those shoppers, and I'll get to that in a bit. Once I've got this integration connected, we can see first these are products that I'm pulling from Elastic Path. So this is my storefront area. I can see my PDP template, which we've configured with a very basic PDP experience for this demo store, as well as here in my content area, I've got my homepage, which is configured with a little bit of a personalization experience at the top. And I'll get deeper into this a little bit later. What I want to show here is that we've got a segment trait called LTV, which is lifetime value, which we're looking for an LTV greater than or equal to 25. And if that LTV hits those values, then we'll display this customized content. You can see in this store, I've just cleared my cookies. That section is not showing here. So I'm going to simulate a brand new user to this store, and I'm going to start navigating. Here I'm visiting this pure cotton shirt product. I've added it to my cart. And as I'm doing these events, I can click into this Elastic Path CX Studio source, and I can see that there is a user conducting these actions. I can see the page, I can see the product added, I can see this anonymous ID, which actually corresponds to, if I open up my cookies here, it corresponds to my unstacked session ID. So that unstacked session ID is being configured as the AJS anonymous ID, that's the Segment anonymous ID, and that is pushing events into Segment using that anonymous ID, which allows us to later connect that data back to that original session. As I continue to navigate through, I'll go through a checkout experience. Let me close this panel here. I've entered an email address and I'm going to continue through this form. What you'll see here is that I've completed this first checkout step, and we can see in the data that I've pushed through, there's this trait of email. This allows us to begin building profiles on users before they've even completed a checkout experience. And later, if that user revisits, we can have an abandonment workflow. We can shoot them an email. We can have a drip campaign targeting abandoned users. And I'll show you later in the Unify area, that user has been already pulled through into Unify, so we can address that user later. But for now, I'm just going to be continuing through on this event stream. I'll continue with the checkout, and all right, so now we're going to pay $70, and I've got a completed purchase. If I come back into my sources, I can see all those additional events that came through all the way up to the thank you. I can see some of these checkout steps that completed. The second one actually pushed address information. If I go back to my sources, on the back end, we can see there's an order completed event that was pushed through from our integration hub integration with the same anonymous ID, and that pushed through the completed order, which gives us this value of $70 goes to helping us build an intelligent profile on this user. And now in this Unify area of Segment, I can view profiles of users who've come through this experience. This particular user is already known as a customer. That's a computed audience. And I can see the events, both front end and back end, unified here in a singular profile. And they've been unified on this anonymous ID identity. This is the identity that we've used to anonymously combine data from different streams into a singular profile. Additionally, we can see here an LTV trait. This is a computed trait that Segment generates using predictive analytics. It's one of a suite of traits. This is just one that we have configured on this demo store that allows us to derive insights and personalize experiences for this user based on things like their value to us. So back in the store, we can see I have that LTV trait. I have this experience customized for that user with that particular trait. If I visit the homepage again, I should see that section. It says, hey, thanks for being a customer. It gives me my 10% off. What we'll notice here, though, is that the contact first name did not have a value, and it defaulted to the hey. If we go back to our customers in CX Studio, we can see that we don't have a name for that user. We have their computed traits, we have the computed audience of customers, and we have all of the IDs that were generated from Segment as well pulled into this profile, but we're missing that name information. So let me clear my cookies again real quick, and we'll show an experience that's a little bit more personalized for a user. If I refresh here, my session has gone away. Now, if I come through as a registered user, I can create an account here. I'll create that account. It logs me in. Now I'll come back to pure cotton check shirt. I'll come back to this product and we'll see in my source, I should have a new stream started. So first we've got this identify event. This is my registration. And this is interesting because this is going to start to build an intelligent profile around that user. Here we can see that I'm starting to track this new session, and let's go through and complete a checkout here. We'll do a little bit of a bigger order, and we can see my profile information is already filled because I'm signed in, and we'll pay that $140 and we'll see that order getting completed similar to before. We got to the thank you page. If I go back to the back end, we can see again the order is completed. Now, however, if we go to Unify, we can see that this user has a name, they have an identity, they're a registered user. Similar in other ways, one major difference is that we've got this user ID, and this user ID came from the registration, that identify call. This is actually the Elastic Path account member ID. And so this becomes a universally unique identifier of that user within all of our systems. This is pushed into their CX Studio customer record, as well as into Segment, as well as into obviously Elastic Path. That's where it came from. So we can later use this user ID to identify people in email campaigns. We can link them out using this ID, and even on devices that they've never visited a CX Studio site from before, we can personalize an experience to them knowing who they are based on this ID. So we can pull their profile and display personalized content to them. But now if I come back here, let's just double check that our computed traits have calculated. Okay, now I've got an LTV of 140. I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to go to my homepage and I'm going to create a new section. I think I'll just duplicate this other banner, and I'll create something for greater than 100. I'll give them 25% off. How's that? Oops. And this one, now we don't want to show both sections to them. So what I'll do is I'll change this to between 25 and 100. So 25 to 100 and greater than 100. So now I should see the greater than 100 banner when I visit the homepage, and it should own my name. So Steven, thanks for being a customer. I get the 25% off coupon. So here I've been able to personalize an experience to users at different levels based on how much they've purchased from my store before. Finally, what I like to demo is using an identity, and I'm just going to copy this anonymous ID here. I'm going to see if I can do this in an incognito window. I want to say, do a mobile experience. And so now I'm gonna simulate in an incognito window with no cookies, no history, loading a profile of an account that, using that anonymous ID, loading a profile of a user who had previously made a purchase, say, from their desktop and now gets an email on their mobile phone from SendGrid, which is a Twilio company as well and integrates with Segment. Can push through a user to a campaign. This could be a landing page, for example, that's targeted to specific users. And what this should do is it should load my profile, which it's doing here, directly on this device, even though that user on that device had never previously visited this CX Studio storefront. So in this way, we're enabling marketers to retarget customers across devices and personalize their experience across those devices, even if we've never seen them before. So that's it. That is our entire integration, and I hope you've enjoyed it. There's a lot more to come. There are a lot of deeper components to this integration that we'd like to build, a lot more personalization rules that we'd like to build in to enable even more powerful experiences, such as customizing collections, predictive collections based on past purchases, things of that nature. So we've got a lot more to come, and thanks for watching.